Before we get to Illawarra Road, let's just do a quick public service announcement. So if you're going across the Cooks River at Ewan Park, just note there is some concreting work going on on the road at the moment on the other side. No idea how long this is going for, but there is a bit of a detour through it. It's a bit of a rough ride across the grass, but it is doable. So if you come down here and you see all this red stuff everywhere, all these bollards, whatever, don't worry, you can't get through. So here we are on the Cooks River approaching the Illawarra Road crossing, and unfortunately council's done nothing about this bottleneck here. Yes, I understand that has to be there to stop idiot drivers driving down there, but it is a pain. The other small problem is the positioning of that signage which says dismount. Unfortunately, most people don't seem to see it. They also haven't fixed these ramps on either side. Now, that wasn't really part of the scope of what they're doing here. They were just putting some paint down to turn this into a pedestrian crossing, so that's, it's all good. I guess they need to work out how well this whole thing's working before looking at doing any extra work, like say putting in a wombat crossing. So there's the Cooks River in red, there's Illawarra Road in blue, just to give you some context to where we are, and obviously this is where they cross over. And there's the roundabout up the hill a little bit, and the problem I always saw in the past was drivers belting down the street through the roundabout and then speeding through the crossing with poor sight lines. In summary, over the 10 minutes I was there, 19 cyclists crossed without dismounting and 13 crossed after they dismounted. So yeah, the great majority are not bothering to dismount, and whether that's something to do with not seeing that sign or not knowing the rules, who knows. 23 pedestrians also crossed, giving us a total of 55 crossings in 10 minutes. Now, they were 55 people crossing. Some people were going across in groups, so I don't know exactly how many crossings there were in total. Now we can see the first ones there, dismounted, crossing without any cars coming in either direction, and we'll see all sorts of different circumstances over the next couple of minutes. Now, the questions that I had in mind: are drivers approaching the crossing too fast in either direction? Because that's obviously a safety risk if they don't have time to pull up if someone steps out onto the crossing. Related to that, are the sight lines adequate? So if drivers are coming in too fast and someone steps out, are they going to see them in time in order to brake without cleaning them up? Are cyclists looking properly before setting out across the crossing? And the last one is how much of a reduced impact would a wombat crossing have on vehicle queuing? Because I did see vehicles queuing back up the hill on a number of occasions back around the roundabout because there were a number of people crossing in both directions and drivers couldn't get through. Now what we're going to see here, if you're looking at this, you can see some drivers going through there at a pretty reasonable clip. I did in fact download a bit of software called Speed Clock on my phone and tried it out, and it's supposed to you point it at cars and it tells you how fast they're going past. I should have read the manual before I went there and not tried to work out how to use it on the side of the road, because it gave me completely stupid results. So yes, unfortunately, I can't tell you, I can't give you any quantitative measurements on how fast people were driving. You just have to look at the vehicles going past and go, yeah, is that a reasonable speed? Is that a bit too quick? Look, there were some drivers that slowed right down and crawled across the speed cushions, and there were others that went belting across, and there were some that kind of went around them. Now, I think the reason they put down speed cushions is this is a bus route, and the buses are wide enough that they could put their wheels on either side and go across it without making it uncomfortable for passengers, which I guess is fair enough, but you do get some drivers that take advantage of that and go kind of zooming around them. But on the whole, what I saw was this was working very well. Cyclists were either getting off or approaching very slowly and cautiously, having a good look, making sure the drivers were going to stop for them before setting out. And that's a critical thing you just have to do as a cyclist. And the thing I was taught when I started was look the driver in the eye, and if they're not looking back at you, stop, because they're probably not going to see you and stop for you. So give them a good eyeball, and if they kind of acknowledge your existence, then you're probably going to be safe to go. You can see here just how slowly that cyclist left the pavement, and there's chaos in the middle of the road because you've got three cyclists coming from the other direction, and they've got to try and get through that little concrete gap in the middle, which is only wide enough for one bicycle. Now, this is wintertime. Heaven knows what it's going to be like in summer when this actually gets busy on a nice day. It was interesting though, just how many people did cross in the 10 minutes I was there. It was fairly busy, which I think is a good sign. It's nice to see that many people taking advantage of a nice day and the Cooks River path, and coming over to use the playground behind me or whatever. So here's another example of some people dismounting, having a good look, and pushing their bikes across. The issue being, of course, that pushing takes quite some time, as opposed to riding across. If you have a look at some of the cyclists that ride across, even after slowing right down to have a good look, you'll see just how quickly they can get across, even with that stupid zigzag in the middle. So another pair turning up. What are they going to do? Yeah, so stop and dismount. So you can see, just how long that's tying up the drivers. When a driver stops for you, has to wait for you to dismount. You get off, start pushing, blah blah blah. It's fairly time consuming. And I've actually got a little side-to-side comparison at the end here, where we're going to look at how long it takes two types of cyclists to get across. You can see there were quite a lot of drivers that actually drove onto the pedestrian crossing. They went over the speed cushion. Whether they were coming into it too quickly, I don't know. You can see this guy, just look at him zoom across. Took him, a couple of seconds to zip across and just get out of the way, just clear the road essentially. Which is good if you want to keep the traffic flowing, because otherwise on a busy day there's going to be cars queued up from here down to Wollongong. So hopefully you're seeing a good mix here of different behaviour by both cyclists and drivers. In general, I think the drivers are treating it pretty well, although there is that minority who are just absolute morons, and we'll see one of them right at the very end, who just went blazing through here at well over the speed limit without any consideration for anyone else. I'm pretty sure she thought she was quite cool, but I thought she was just an absolute idiot. Like I said, there were 55 people who crossed, but there were a number of groups like that. So how many crossings were there in total? I don't know. And I didn't bother counting the number of vehicles that went back and forth. I might go back one day and have a look if I can be bothered. I think the speed cushion in general is effective for 99% of the drivers, or maybe 95%. Those that are just responsible. So here comes the idiot. Yeah, watch that. Just zoom through and then belt it off down the road. Now here's a side-to-side comparison. Up top, we've got a cyclist cycling across. Look at how long does it take them? About 9 seconds. Yeah, 9 seconds go to woe to get across the road. And on the bottom, we've got two people pushing who departed from the other side about the same time. So about 18 seconds for them. Twice as long to get across the road. So if you're worried about delaying traffic and causing queuing, a wombat crossing would definitely be the way to go. Now, I did promise a view of the radar sign coming on the way, and there it is. So yes, it does exist, and unfortunately, my camera really didn't pick up what was going there. You'd have to go and stand there and have a look at it for a few minutes. Now, it has been suggested in some places that the crossing should be moved to the other side of the bridge. I don't know if this is the location that people have in mind. That would be another logical place to put it, since there's already islands there, and you could just put a straight through crossing there, but it would mean riding down the footpath for a considerable distance over on the right hand side there. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. Anyway, here we are approaching the crossing. Sight lines. Okay, is that silver car on the left a problem? Possibly, because it didn't really give you much time to see that old bloke on the bike over on the side of the road there. How about coming from the other direction, from the roundabout? Well, let's zip down the hill here. And what about that red car? Is that blocking the view of anyone there? Yes, look, there's a cyclist and their kid. So sight lines are possibly a problem. Anyway, if you like this content, feel free to subscribe to Baybug. If you want to come for a ride with us, feel free to join. It's free, and we do rides a couple of times a week. It's all on the website.